to welcome all of you to the 16th edition of the NISSA Annual Business Forum 2026, organized by the Northern India Steamer Agents Association. Well, sometimes when I'm in this formal events, I'm a little hesitant to be this loud, but whenever I'm here in Delhi for a NISSA event, nothing holds me back. I'm on top of my energy and in top volume because I know the team here totally encourages energy. So let's start with a loud round of applause, everyone, as we begin the 16th edition of NISSA. Established on the 30th of December 1985, NISSA proudly completes 40 successful years of service to the trade. Its journey began alongside the growth of containerized trade in North India, marked by the setting up of the first ICD at Pragati Maidan, later shifted to ICD Tughlakabad. Since then, NISSA has played a pivotal role in strengthening containerized EXIM movements from the region. As a non-commercial body, NISSA works closely with ministries, customs, container trade operators, ICDs, CFSs, and terminals to address industry challenges and support policy development that benefits trade at large. Since its inception in 2010, during the Silver Jubilee year, the Business Forum has served as a vital platform for dialogue and collaboration among each other. As we navigate policy reforms, multimodal expansion, and technological transformation, forums like this, ladies and gentlemen, will shape the future of shipping and logistics towards 2030 and beyond. Coming back to today's NISSA Business Forum, this year's theme, Navigating North India's Global Trade, Breaking Barriers, Building Bridges. This theme reflects our shared commitment to strengthening connectivity, enhancing collaboration, and unlocking new opportunities across the global maritime and logistics landscape. Today, we bring together industry leaders, policy makers, and trade professionals to exchange insights, foster partnerships, and chart a stronger course for North India's growing role in international trade. Let us embark on this journey of dialogue and collaboration. Welcome to the NISSA Business Forum 2026. At this point, the NISSA and its executive members would like to deeply thank our esteemed sponsors, without whom this would definitely have remained a dream. Let's thank them from the bottom of our hearts. APM Terminal, Transworld Terminals, Track 1, Container Corporation of India, DP World, Adani Ports and Logistics, Pristine Logistics and Infra Projects Private Limited, Hind Terminal, Dune Logistics, Central Warehousing Corporation, All Cargo Terminals, Odex India Solutions Private Limited, CMS CGM Logistics Park, JM Bakshi, Delhi International Cargo Terminal, and Gateway Rail for supporting this initiative. A loud round of applause for our lovely sponsors for your gracious support towards NISSA 2026. Now, to welcome the delegates and deliver the opening remarks, I would like to welcome Mr. Sasi Nair, President, Northern India Steamer Agents Association, on stage, please. Sasi Nair is a Senior Area General Manager at CMA CGM Group's India Agency. With over 3 decades of experience in container shipping and logistics, he oversees commercial and operational activities across North India, supporting trade connectivity and customer engagement across the region. He has also played an active role in industry associations and previously served as Vice President of the NISSA, contributing to dialogue and policy discussions within the shipping and maritime community. Ladies and gentlemen, a loud round of applause as we welcome Mr. Sasi Nair on stage for the welcome address.
Distinguished guests, respected members of the Northern India Steamer Agents Association, industry leaders, partners from government and trade bodies, and all esteemed participants, a very warm good afternoon to everyone and namaskaram. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 16th edition of NISSA Business Forum, a platform that brings together key stakeholders of the maritime, logistics, and trade ecosystem. Today's gathering is not only an opportunity to exchange ideas, but also a moment to reflect on the evolving landscape of global commerce and the role North India plays within that. We can't move forward without discussing the biggest barrier facing today to our fraternity, the West Asia crisis involving Iran, Israel, and US, We all are getting dragged into it as collateral damage on our EXIM trade. For exporters, importers, and all other stakeholders in supply chain across North India, this means several very real challenges. Longer transit time as vessels reroute to avoid conflict zones, higher insurance, higher fuel cost and freight cost that skews already thin margins, sudden change in tariff regimes that can make a profitable shipment unviable overnight. Disruptions in the availability of containers, vessels, and critical logistic services. While these disruptions are global, their impact is particularly sharp for a region like ours that is rapidly scaling up its participation into the global trade. Shipping lines and logistics fraternity are exploring alternate ways to ensure supply chains continue its moment. However, in short, medium term, pain is here to stay. This crisis also gives opportunity to develop resilient alternate supply chains as well as to capitalize once situations becomes normal as we saw post-pandemic era. Let us hope and wish the crisis ends soon. Coming back to NBF, the theme of this year's forum, Navigating North India's Global Trade, Breaking Barriers, Building Bridges, is both timely and significant. In an increasingly interconnected world, trade corridors are no longer defined merely by geography. They are shaped by collaboration, innovation, policy alignment, and the collective will of industry and government to remove obstacles that hinder the progress. Northern India stands as one of the most dynamic engines of economic growth in the country. With its thriving manufacturing hubs, agricultural exports, growing industrial base, and very high consumption of various products, the region has immense potential to strengthen its footprint in the global trade. However, to fully realize this potential, we must address the barriers that slow down the trade, whether they are infrastructural, procedural, or logistical. Breaking these barriers requires open dialogue, coordinated efforts, and forward-looking strategies. It calls for stronger partnership between shipping lines, logistics providers, port authorities, policymakers, and also the businesses. At the same time, building bridges means creating seamless connections between ports and hinterlands, between digital system and physical infrastructure, and between markets across continents. Forums such as these are vital because they provide the space for exactly such conversations. By bringing together experts, decision makers, and innovators, we can collectively explore solutions that enhance efficiency, strengthen supply chains, and unlock new opportunities for Northern India in the global trade. The Northern India Steamer Agents Association, NISSA, has long played a crucial role in representing the interest of the shipping and maritime community while facilitating dialogue with industry and government. Through various initiatives like the NISSA Business Forum, which is now progressing on the 16th edition, the association continues to foster collaboration and knowledge that benefits the entire trade ecosystem. Today's session promises insightful discussions, valuable perspective, and meaningful networking opportunities. I encourage all participants to engage actively, share experience, and contribute ideas that can help shape the future of our region's trade. Let us use this forum to move beyond challenges and focus on solutions, to break barriers that limit growth and build bridges that connect Northern India more strongly with the global marketplace. Once again, on behalf of NISSA Executive Committee, I extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you for being part of this important forum. I wish the NISSA Business Forum great success and look forward to the productive discussions ahead. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Shashi sir. As he rightly said, let's use this forum for meaningful discussions. And as you know, there are representatives from NISSA and from India Sea Trade who will make notes of whatever is being discussed here so that it's taken forward for action. Looking forward to all those discussions. Once again, thank you, sir. To deliver the keynote address for the day, I would like to welcome Mr. Sanjay Swarup, Chairman and Managing Director, International Marketing and Operations, Container Corporation of India Limited on stage. Sanjay Swarup is the Chairman and Managing Director of Container Corporation of India Limited, Navratna CPSC under the Ministry of Railways, Government of India, a 1990 batch IRTS officer. He holds an engineering degree from IIT Roorkee and a PGDM from IIM Bangalore. He's led key initiatives in multimodal logistics, dry ports, digital transformation, and international container operations, strengthening CONCOR's global logistics footprint. An absolute pleasure to have you on stage, sir. Over to you.
My friend Sasi Nair, President NISSA, Captains of Industry, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. It's always a pleasure to attend NISSA Business Forum. First of all, I would like to congratulate NISSA on completing 40 years and the service that, exemplary service that they are giving to the trade. NISSA and CONCOR have got a very strong and old association. Both of us are working for benefit of the trade and share a common objective of bringing down the logistics cost and making our products competitive in international market. I would like to point out that we are living in very exciting times as well as very challenging times. Exciting times because we have got the government which has got a very good agenda for infrastructure creation, infrastructure development, which is good for the logistics sector. All of us are aware that so many highways are being constructed at a breakneck speed, and which will further ease the transportation, last mile transportation, first mile transportation. And this Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, which will be the primary driver for movement between West ports and North India, is nearing completion. I have been informed that by this month end, JNPA will also be connected to Western DFC, which will be a very big achievement. We will be able to run a short transit time train between North India to JNPA, and shippers can have a predictability in service, which will be a big boon for logistics of North India, and time will also reduce, and I think this will further lead to cost reduction and bring down the logistics cost, which will be ultimately beneficial for exporters and importers of our country. One more thing that has recently you must have read in news reports, it is the establishment of Bharat Container Shipping Line. It is a matter of pride for all of us Indians that we will have a we will have our own container shipping line. Till now, we don't have any. And India is a developing, fast developing country. Make in India is also gaining traction. So we hope to become export-driven economy very soon, just like our neighbor China. So it was the need of the hour that we should have our own shipping line, which Government of India took a decision. Honorable Prime Minister announced it during India Maritime Week. And we have signed MOU. We are one of the important stakeholder. And as per the Amrit Kal vision of Honorable Prime Minister, this shipping line will become among the top 10 shipping lines of the world by 2047. We are fully committed to work towards it, and we are quite confident that we will be able to achieve. And government is fully supporting us in this regard. And we will be starting this shipping line very soon, and which will be ultimately beneficial for the trade, and the equipment shortages, everything will be addressed that we faced during COVID-19. Now, as all of you are aware, the customer has become very demanding. We have to work for him, and our duty doesn't end when the container reaches our terminal. We have to give first mile, last mile also. We have to take the container to the shipper's premises. So end-to-end logistics assumes very big importance in today's logistics market. And we are working towards it in all respects. Even we are now, our containers, before this unfortunate war, our containers were going to Middle East also. On our own document, we started sending our containers. It was well appreciated by trade. and we were able to give end-to-end service right up to the doorstep of customers. So it was very much appreciated by them, and we hope to continue in future also. One more thing that is a big focus for all logistician, it should be, is the environment protection. So we should work towards green logistics, which is focus area for my company. 95% of our transportation is through rail, which is a green mode of transport. In South India, due to short peninsular distances, road becomes very competitive as compared to rail, price-wise and time-wise also. There we have deployed LNG trailers, and LNG is again a green mode of transport as compared to diesel. We are also working on EVs and battery technology. Lot of R&D is going on. Within time of 3-4 years, we are quite confident that we will be able to procure more and more EVs for container transportation over short and long distances. And apart from that, we have ERSTs also. We have deployed in our terminals, 3 at Whitefield, 2 at Tughlakabad, and they are excellent. I myself saw, you are standing, RST will pass just adjacent to you, you will not even hear any sound. They are working very nicely. ERSTs are very good. We plan to procure more ERSTs, which will be environment friendly as well as more efficient also. One more product that we have developed, it is for domestic market, is transportation of bulk cement in tank containers. And it is a very efficient logistics practice that we have started. In between, cement is produced in bulk, consumed in bulk. In between, there was bagging, which was inefficient as far as logistics is concerned. We have eliminated that. We transport the cement in bulk form, and our container goes to the site of consumption, and there it can be used as warehouse also. Suppose consignee doesn't want to use all the cement in one go, he can keep the container for some time on a nominal charge, and when container is fully de-stuffed, we take it back. So this is also very well received by trade. Now there is more demand, and we are shortage of tank containers. So because it's a new product, so India ecosystem is not that well developed, but we are hopeful that within 6 months' time, the cement industry will see a very big disruption as far as it will be efficient, and more cement will be moving by rail through tank containers. That will be another big thing in logistics. I compliment NISSA for choosing an excellent theme, very relevant in today's world. We are passing through all these things I told, we are living in very exciting times. Now I should tell challenging times. Challenging times, all of you are aware, there is a lot of geopolitical disruptions as far as exempt trade is concerned. Initially it was tariffs, where our government was very proactive. They signed so many FTAs to counter that. But once that issue was appearing, it is now resolved, immediately war started. So it's quite unfortunate that exempt trade has to grapple with these situations on which we don't have much control. But I am very sure something will, as Mr. Sasi Nair very nicely told, that in the face of adversity, also there is a lot of opportunity. So maybe something good will come out very soon, which will be beneficial for exempt trade and for logistics managers combined. So I wish great success to this conference, and I am very sure that with the fruitful discussions, something good will come out by the evening. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
I know you're hard-pressed for time, sir. So before much ado, we'd like to really thank him for his presence here. Of course, with a loud round of applause, but even more than that, as a token of our love and gratitude, we'd like to present him with a memento, and to do the honors, I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Shashi Nair once again. And ladies and gentlemen, it was an absolute pleasure to have Mr. Sanjay Swarup with us, Chairman and Managing Director of CONCOR. I know he needs to leave, so let's present a memento to him. As you can see, this memento is really, really special. If there are Keralites here, you would know. This is actually the traditional snake boat of Kerala, which is usually seen racing through our backwaters, rowed by large teams full of energy with, the same unmatched rhythm. So it signifies teamwork, collaboration, which is in line with our theme today. Thank you so much, Mr. Swarup, for joining us. And thank you, Shashi sir, for doing the honors. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we start with our first panel discussion for the day. Our first session, which is titled Strengthening North India Intermodal Corridors and Ports. To debate and deliberate on this, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists on stage. With a loud round of applause, let's welcome on stage Mr. Vijoy Kumar Singh, Director, International Marketing and Operations, Container Corporation of India Limited. A 1996 batch IRTS officer, Mr. Singh brings 27 years of rich experience in railway operations and commercial, business development, container services, and logistics management in CONCOR. He previously served as Chief Commercial Manager, Passenger Marketing of Central Railway. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vijoy Kumar Singh for us. Welcome, sir. Our next panelist of the first panel discussion is Mr. Amit Bharadwaj, Chief Commercial Officer, APM Terminals. Mr. Bharadwaj is a customer-focused commercial leader with 30 years of global experience across ports, terminals, shipping, logistics, and other agencies. He has a strong record of driving revenue growth, infrastructure expansion, strategic partnerships, and building high-performing teams across India, Southeast Asia, and Europe. Mr. Amit Bharadwaj for you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, sir. Our next panelist on stage, Mr. Adhendru Jain, Vice President, Rail and Inland Terminal, DP World. Mr. Adhendru Jain is here with over 20 years of experience in container shipping, terminals, landside logistics, and supply chain solutions. Previously with AP Moller Maersk Group and APM Terminals, he has led logistics, contract logistics, and operations roles across South Asia. He's an alumnus of Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Adhendru Jain joining us on the panel. Welcome, sir. Our next panelist on stage, Dr. Rinku Gupta, Head India Transport Logistics, CNH Industrial. Mr. Rinku Gupta, Dr. Rinku Gupta is a result-oriented professional with over 24 years of experience in supply chain excellence, procurement, plant operations, and logistics management. Expertise spans across production, quality, global sourcing, vendor development, imports, exports, warehousing, and lean initiatives. She successfully transformed the customer relationship with Maruti Suzuki into a model of customer delight through strong stakeholder management and leadership. Dr. Rinku Gupta for us. Welcome, ma'am, on stage. I'm so used to calling gentlemen on stage on such forums that suddenly she turned into a mister for me, but it's an absolute pleasure to have you, ma'am, on stage. Our next panelist on stage is Mr. Tarun Kalra, Senior Vice President, Mediterranean Shipping Company. Ladies and gentlemen, a loud round of applause for him. Thank you, Mr. Tarun Kalra, for joining us on stage. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us on NISSA Business Forum 2026. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to set the tone of this session, I would like to invite Mr. Manish Puri, President of Association of Container Train Operators and Managing Director and CEO, RailRunner Innovations Private Limited, on stage. Mr. Manish Puri is a rail and logistics veteran with nearly 30 years of experience across government and private sectors. A former Indian Railways officer, he has held leadership roles with P&O Ports, Transworld, Boxtrans, and APLL India Links. He advises industry and government on logistics strategy and serves in leading roles across key logistics association. Handing over the floor to Mr. Manish Puri, who will set the tone of the discussion and take it over from here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for having all of us here for this discussion. Just to begin with, I mean, to address the elephant in the room, the global crisis, what I propose to do is, towards the end of the session, depending on how much time we have, we will have a brief discussion on maybe what is the impact of those issues. But rather than dwelling upon that, which is, I know, an immediate crisis, I thought let's spend the larger part of the time on a discussion related to more long-term issues, more issues which we need to discuss, which we need to debate, get alternative views on. Broadly speaking, there are three areas which I thought we could touch upon. One area is relating to the issue of capacity. As we all know, North India is really an engine of growth as far as the economy is concerned, and a lot of the volumes that are moving and generating business at our ports are originating from markets in North India. So we will talk about capacity, not just in terms of the capacity to get the cargo from the North India markets to the port, which could be rail capacity or road capacity or ICD capacity, but also talk about capacity at the ports. So that's one issue that I wanted to touch upon. Okay. The second issue that I wanted to touch upon, and unfortunately our colleague from the Railways is not here, is the issue of reforms. So there has been a lot of talk of late, there's been a lot of discussion of late on the issue of reforms for the container sector. The Minister of Railways has actually announced a plan for seeking to do multiple reforms over the coming year. I know that colleagues in the Ministry of Railways, in the Department of Logistics, in the Ministry of Commerce, etc., have been working on certain reforms. I would have preferred, obviously, to hear this from the horse's mouth, but in the last couple of days, there have been some meetings and discussions which I have been a part of, which I have been privileged to be a part of, and I will try to take this opportunity to also update the gathering here on some of the ideas that are being discussed about in terms of what are the reforms that we can expect that might be able to help us serve our customers in a better way. And finally, I'd like to also take a little bit of time about gazing forward, to look at the idea of what are new solutions, what are some of the new products, what are some of the new ways in which we can use technology, in which we can use innovation, in which we can use AI, etc., to be able to get better service delivery and to be able to improve the customer experience, which finally is going to lead to hopefully better volumes and growth in the sector. So these are the areas that like I said, that I'd like to kind of touch upon in this discussion. Let me begin first by addressing a question to an esteemed colleague and an old friend, Mr. Vijay Singh, who is the Director for International Marketing and Operations at CONCOR. As we all know, CONCOR is really the giant as far as providing container logistics is concerned. The entire container sector has emerged as being a part of CONCOR and has now emerged to represent a very large share of the market as well. But CONCOR continues to take the lead. So let me start off by addressing a question to Mr. Vijay Singh. Sir, so we all know that CONCOR is a market leader. CONCOR controls about 50% of the market share. Can you talk to us a little bit about what are some of the key initiatives, other than conventional pricing measures, that have been taken by CONCOR to increase the size of the market, to increase the overall size of the pie, which we are all competing for and which we are all seeking to address, especially with respect to increasing multimodal rail traffic from the Indian hinterland. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I congratulate NISSA for organizing this fantastic program, which gives us the platform. Basically, we all are from the one family, and we need such platforms to get together, discuss, and also ponder that in which areas we actually need to grow. And need to grow is basically, to me, is basically need to change. We always think of changing the environment, changing the ecosystem, changing the things which will be facilitating all of us to grow further. But also we all, I understand that we need to change on our own. So as we know, we are the change. So coming directly to the question of Manish sir, that what would be the key initiatives from CONCOR side, so that especially in this in pursuit of size of market to get enlarged or rather strengthened, so that we could serve the trade better. As we all know, friends, the journey of CONCOR is, of course, as long as the continuation journey is India itself. However, change is inevitable. Keeping that in mind, first of all, we need to understand that The trade outside must be looking at us, and they are looking at us, that as service providers, in what way we are facilitating them to grow. If an exporter and an importer is working somewhere and we need to facilitate their product to be shipped somewhere, they must be looking at us that what kind of connectivity we are providing and what are the locations, what kind of ecosystems we are providing to them, and how ease of business is getting established. So keeping that in mind, one of the key things which CONCOR is pursuing very hard since so many years, and it has been aggravated and it has been strengthened more, not only that under the guidance of Minister of Railways being PSU, but we all know that these are the gaps where our presence should be there. So first and first, is a number of locations where we actually need that this is one gap which we need to fill up. And our presence, not only is it CONCOR presence, but a presence of the logistic players together would be there. So there are many areas, let's say Amritsar area. How many ICTs or railways, CRTs, ECRTs would be there? That is one question. My railway colleague is not here, but we can vouch for that. Also, with our active participation in discussions also, Railways has come up with a unique idea of opening not only the CRTs, which is an old one, but the ECRTs, and also they are keen to associate with us, maybe with others also, that in what way an ecosystem of logistics could be created alongside Indian Railways line, their properties, as well as the connectivity where Indian Railways presence is being felt. So that way, right from Amritsar, I'm talking about the North India, to the parts of Uttar Pradesh, and of course Rajasthan, NCR, Haryana, and of course towards Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, we are looking for opportunities to make our presence in terms of locations where we could provide services. We call it ICT, we call it ECRT, we call it participation with the existing players. That is how we will facilitate and rather encourage the trade partners to grow with their volumes so that together we create that opportunity of logistics service. That is one. Another thing which as CONCOR we are keen to realize as one of the key initiatives is the ease of business through customer centricity. This is one of our focus areas. Because of late we all know, and of course here, whoever are present here, at times we write to us through different modes of communications, and those writing things are not only the communication hi, hello, but also the grievances, complaints. Those are basically some gaps towards service delivery. So keeping that in mind, we need to grow digitally, and of late we have find that we do have systems like ETMS, DTMS, and FYS linked other activities platforms. But we all know that these are basically ERP based solutions. So of late we have already started working, and very soon we will be procuring a ultra-modern AI-driven customer relationship management solution or the platform. This is somewhere there. If you define the CRM, in one way or other, some solutions are there. But this is not the one which we feel in the present time. So that way we will be creating this platform to not only establish a real-time communication between the trade partners, but also creating the environment of facilitation where trade will be encouraged to grow further. That this will create more. Another thing which we are keen that on our own we must be increasing, but we have identified the big corporates, the big companies, big service providers with whom we will be partnering. So we are now open. Many times we are getting branded, ki you are PSU, rest others are, I don't think they are PSU or not, but they are esteemed private players. But even though we are a PSU, we are open to partner with them So even as I discussed, let's say creating MMLPs or ICDs, so we are open to have a kind of reasonable business model, a partnership with them, so that together we grow. Whenever together we grow, 1 plus 1 is not 2, but is 11. So it in turn encourages the market to grow further. These are the few key initiatives. Of course, if some more question from Manish sir would be there, I would be loving it to react in what way we are thinking. And further, that openness. Sir, CONCOR is no more an organization who is inward looking and growing or declining. I don't say, but declining in the terms of, it is an open secret. We started from 75, 80%, now we are 56, 55 or 58%. But it doesn't mean that we are declining, that the pie should not grow. We are together here to grow further. So it's not that I will contribute it, together we will be facilitating the environment to grow. And another, the last thing, actually I rather encourage or request Manish sir to ask further intelligent questions for me so that it will provoke me to answer. That Indian Railways, as the keynote speaker has already mentioned, that the Indian Railways, under the guidelines of Government of India, is creating these GCTs and lot many activities for creating an ecosystem of logistic wherein the efficiency is getting increased and logistic cost is getting decreased. So our job is also to add value towards this mission, that how logistic cost is decreased. So for this, as Concorian, as a director, I will never आपकी तरफ उंगली उठाना. It is my job कि in what way I am looking at me, that how I can address this issue, firstly at our own. Otherwise, it is very easy कि आप ऐसा कर देंगे तो logistic घट जाएगा. It doesn't happen that way, sir. Everybody is bothered about his own balance sheet. That is one thing. Another thing is that GCTs and all those locations, this ecosystem, when it is getting generated, as CONCOR, we are very keen to have, or rather get associated with this kind of mission, so that so many business locations are there, an ecosystem is there, connectivity, mobility is getting established, the trade will encourage to grow. This is how we are thinking. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vijoy. Very heartening to hear the language of partnership from CONCOR. All of us in the container trade have been linked with CONCOR in some way or the other. Many of us started our container journeys as employees of CONCOR. So it's always good to see that somebody who has this kind of institutional knowledge is willing to take the sector as a whole along to grow the business. Market shares will go up and down as there are more players. I think that's fair. But if the overall size of the pie increases, with a lower market share, your overall numbers can still be much higher. And I think that's our objective. As a follow-up question, and I know that you have to leave a little early, so I'm going to sort of try to have the questions with Vijay first before we move to the rest of the panel. Sanjay talked about a very interesting initiative called the Bharat Container Shipping Line, right? Definitely the need for India to have its own shipping line which can add capacity has been felt for some time, and it's a mixed bag. There are many people in this gathering, and I will, as many of my friends here know, that I have a tendency to move a little bit towards controversial things because that's what makes conversations a little interesting. So please forgive me, there are no accusations being made here, but I do like to poke the bear once in a while. So there are many shipping lines here. Bharat Container Shipping Line is about creating an alternative, right? So the question I have for you is, while we wait for how it gets set up, how the management is done, how it grows, whatever, what are your thoughts in terms of an entity like a Bharat Shipping Line? And I know that CONCOR has a very dominant share in that, so you will have a role, at least on the board level, in determining how it moves. How do you see something like a Bharat Container Shipping Line acting as a protector to trade or acting as a foil to sometimes practices that large players, whether it is lines, whether it is terminals, whether it is rail operators, many of us have large sizes. How can a Bharat container shipping line act as a foil to that? How does it protect the trade in the true sense? And I'm being as vague as I can in this question. I can go a little deeper, as many people here know, but I'm trying to keep it general. But in terms of providing support as well as providing an alternative, what are your thoughts about that?
I think that's a very good question, because till now, as we all know, that India doesn't have a shipping line on its own. You can understand that India is one of the fast-growing countries. I will not say where we are number-wise, third, fourth, fifth. This just happened. Having said that, since India has a lot of imports and export potential, because we are a big country in terms of consumption, and it is going to be there as far as the times to come. And as you see the present scenario, if you do the SWOT analysis to the basic level, India doesn't have a shipping environment on its own. Whenever we meet either government authorities or big business, the knowledgeable persons who are experts, they all say that having a long 6,500 or so kilometer coastal line and very well-established ports like Jain, Mundra, and of course Pipavav and lot many others, and of course Vizhinjam and whatnot, and of course Eastern Coast. Every state's chief ministers, they are very keen and supporting in terms of creating solutions in terms of port environment. So it is being felt that until and unless a kind of humble partner is getting generated in India itself, wherein they could understand that what is our business opportunities, where our cargo are moving domestically or international wise, which are the streams where we can serve apart from the existing players which are very good established in our own countries also. So I want to say that Bharat Container Shipping Line, once it is coming up after 2-3 years down the line, would be a kind of dominant or something disruptor or something which will be a kind of so-called threat. Not at all. It will be a natural, humble partner in this complete shipping line environment and shipping line fraternity. This is that thing. And it is not conceived only by one ministry or one company or something like that. It is an idea of India's complete economic, business and trade fraternity together. So that's why primarily 2 ministries are joining hands. That is the Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways, and of course Ministry of Railway. Railway has its humble share. However, lot many things are to be tied up, lot many things have to be firmed up, and issues are there. But I hope that keeping the environment which is prevailing in India, and of course the uncertainties which we are all feeling, that in terms of challenges we want to take, there are many streams, there are many opportunities where, as an Indian player, which will be supplementing to each other as far as shipping fraternity is concerned. This is what I, at this moment, might be a kind of round English, but this is what we think.
So not a threat, but maybe like a monitor. Okay, great, thanks. Thank you so much. So let me now, and happy to have you as long as you have time, but let me move on to some of the other panelists. We were talking about certain themes for the discussion. And when we talked about CONCOR's plans and CONCOR talked about expanding terminal capacity, etc., we kind of entered the theme around capacity. So let me now address my next question to Amit on the capacity issue. So Amit, India's container trade is currently dominated by the Western ports. The big players, Mundra, Pipavav, are already in operation, working at fairly high levels of utilization. These players themselves have announced certain capacity expansion plans. In addition, We know that the ports of Adhavan and Tuna Tekra are in the pipeline. Now we know that implementation in India can be a little sketchy, but I think it would be fair to say that eventually this capacity is also going to be coming in terms of evacuation capacity at the ports. So my question to you first is, do you see this added capacity as a threat to existing players? One, do you see that the growth in traffic from North India in particular, but overall as well, is going to be enough to be able to address or to serve this added capacity? And what are some of the challenges that you see associated with this kind of increased capacity, which is going to help evacuate more containers and more trade as far as India is concerned? I know it's a long question, but we have time, so please go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Manish, and thanks, NISSA, for giving this opportunity. This is indeed a long question, so if you get bored, guys, feel free to give me a shout. The first question is on the capacity. It's true that today this topic, when I was discussed 5 years ago, 7 years ago with CTOs, container operators, wasn't even on the radar. But today the crunch can be felt. And now all of a sudden, service reliability is onto the picture. How do you make movements, move count restrictions, capacity restrictions, growth restrictions, all sudden surfaced, whereas we as a port operator could see this coming 5-7 years ago. Now there's a lot of new, when we talk capacity, as a port, you look at capacity catering in many ways, not just necessarily a Northwest India train. You look at Northwest India in general, which includes truck. You will then add the local ecosystem, which will also be growing. So in Gujarat, for example, you have in and around Saurashtra, plus you have Dholera, which is another smart ecosystem should be propping up tomorrow. On top of that, you also add elements of non-container capacity. In other words, the rail line would potentially be used by common things like the NMG rigs by cars, and that's sharing the same line, sharing the same infrastructure. You'd also look at bulk and liquid evacuation, which is increasingly happening by rail. So I think as a port, as a terminal operator, when we only look at TEUs, when you go down to the sub-sectors, you realize that all of them cater to the entire trade in overall. Now, to that interesting mix of growth in India which needs to be catered to across all fields, you also add the mix of transshipment. You do not take a 20-meter natural draft and not maximize it for transshipment. So some of the capacity gets utilized. That being said, infrastructure capacity is not built linearly. Cargo growth is linear. Every year 2%, 4%, some years 6%, 5%, 8%, fair enough. But here, you won't have any infrastructure for a period of time, and then suddenly in a decade, you will have 50% growth, 80% growth, and then for the next decade again, you won't have anything. So when you look at these stepped growths, and when then you overlap the growth of various sectors all put together, and I'm going to stick to containers, you will realize that there will be pockets of time when there seems to be surplus capacity, and there will be pockets of time in the period of the concession or the project where you are capacity crunched. We have seen that. We've seen it in Nhava Sheva, when there was no BMCD at one point of time. I am told that shipping lines would just say, whatever window you have, just network around it. Now it's happened for me. You're exactly reaching the same situation today. In just 5-6 years of BMCD selling. We are seeing Mundra getting increasingly full. We have statistics to show that it's full in front of us. When you take these 6% growths and 8% growths, and then you put it on top of large base impacts, 7 million TEUs now, 8 million TEUs Mundra, then the increasing infrastructure gets utilized a lot faster than you think. So yes, there is Tuna Tekra coming up. And it's exciting. People are very excited about it in the local market. It is coming in, but it's 2 million. So if I just do the maths, how long does it take to use 25% growth in capacity? It's 3 years. All right. be conservative, 4 years. What are you going to do in the 5th year? So when you take long-term views, I see that this capacity is good for the economy, it's needed for the growth, it will be shared by all the stakeholders, and there's enough and all for us to participate in this growth plan. It's not going to be an all-out devastation that we are imagining, that there's going to be so much surplus capacity, oh my God. No, the growth is there. As long as Viksit Bharat stays, as long as Make in India stays, as long as government comes up, and when we talk Make in India, we take imports and exports put together, because it's all part of the same cycle. I can't see this capacity being significantly underutilized. Our own port has, and some of you must have seen this in newspapers, has gone out with a $2 billion or 17,000 crore MOU with the government of Gujarat. That capacity has not even factored in because we have not rolled that out. I think the next decade is an absolute brilliant chance for all stakeholders, be it container, be it liquid, be it bulk, be it CTOs, to actually use these capacity coming up and for once take the supply chain to the next level, through better products, through EDIs, or even those who can't do any of these because it's not in their DNA, just secure the capacity so that you can be a meaningful element in the growth and not just a bystander who then looks back and says, now what do I do? I hope I was able to answer all that.
No, thank you. That's great. So, I mean, it's heartening to hear that the perception here is that we understand that, the capacity, the supply is going to come as a step function, the demand is going to come as a line. There will be points when there are gaps, but on the whole, all of this additional capacity, there is confidence that the trade is going to be able to meet this capacity in terms of growth volumes, and I'm sure that that's great news for everybody here. Let me, and you started talking about one of the other themes that I had wanted to touch upon, which is the theme around products, and I'll come back to that. But let me continue in the same vein, and let me go to Adhendru as a rail service provider, right? Now, as I understand, there are now, as I know, there are now 800 odd trains operating in the CTO space, including CONCOR. About 50% of the rake capacity is in the private sector, about 50% is with CONCOR. So one question, in the current scenario, and I'm asking this question to you, Adhendru, very specifically because after CONCOR, I also happen to know that your company is the largest rake owner and the rake deployer in the sector. Do you feel that there is enough, and this is critical, is there enough financially viable cargo to be carried on this capacity of rolling stock that the sector has already created? And I'm told that this capacity of rolling stock is likely to increase, right? So is there enough financially viable cargo to be carried on these trains? And, there will always be ways you can get it to become better. In your opinion, and I'm moving to the next theme a little bit here as well, what are the kind of products or innovations that can help increase these multimodal volumes to be able to better utilize the rolling stock capacity? The rail capacity will come to later, but the rolling stock capacity.
Thanks, NISSA, for giving me this opportunity. And Manish, I would say a very apt and very...
Thank you, Vijay. A round of applause for Vijay, please. Sorry.
Sir, may I please request you to stay back for a memento from us before you leave? We can't just let you go that way. Yeah. So please come back on stage.
We're just going to do a quick interruption and then we'll come back to Adhendru.
Yes, just a quick memento. May I request Sridhar sir to kindly come on stage to present a quick memento to you before you leave, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, a loud round of applause to Mr. Vijoy Singh. Thank you so much for joining us. Please accept a token of our love, gratitude, and also a token of the tradition of Kerala. For you, yes, it's a very special, it's a snake boat representation of Kerala. Thank you so much for joining us, sir, in spite of having a busy schedule. Much appreciated. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sridhar, for doing the honors, and back to you, sir.
So thank you. So Adhendru, back to you. Filling up the trains.
Yeah, I got some very, very important minutes. really reflect on it. So let me first start with addressing the first piece first, which was about the capacity. See, depending on how you look at it, I think from the perspective of the nodal share of railways in the overall EXIM, and I will also touch upon domestic, because that is also where the capacity is deployed. The thing is that the capacity what we have, I think, can still be used to accelerate the volumes further without really investing in the rolling stock. And in a very simple way, it actually answers the mood which you mentioned, that is there enough financially viable cargo available. I would say cargo would pay what it can pay based on the demand at which it can compete globally. Though the challenge is, Manish, that most times, and I think a lot of my colleagues and stakeholders would relate to that the inefficiencies, the assumptions what you have taken while picking up that cargo and how you end up delivering it. Actually, when you started, you thought that this is financially viable, but when you end it, you realize that all financially viable cargo is not there. So to me, cargo is always there. And let's agree, right? We have been talking about reducing the logistics cost. So I don't claim here that as a CTO, as a shipping line, as all the stakeholders, we can ask to make this cargo financially viable by increasing the freight overall in one shape or another. But this cargo has to become financially viable by making good use of the assets we all have deployed for our ROI, by making sure that a lot of waste which has been built into the system is being taken care of, by ensuring that some of these simple things are being resolved so that a lot of cargo also which is we are not able to attract gets taken care of. I always believe, and you know, that's what at least most my peer group also says, that when we look at rail as a business and basically giving connectivity of hinterlands to the port and back, honestly, CTUs among themselves or rail or shipping lines, when we are providing that product, is not the biggest competitor amongst us. I think the larger competitor is also road, which strategically for government also the choice is that they want to move the middle mile on the long haul using rail. But why is it not happening? Now again, one part is to do a lot with inefficiencies, which can in nature make a lot of this cargo become viable. The other part also is, I think we may have to also have an opportunity, and our esteemed panelist from Railways is missing, but that could have been 2 cents, which we have said multiple times on different occasions, that we do need some work on tariff simplification in whatever shape or form we want to put it. There is a lot of work which is going on. I must say that government and the stakeholders have been quite receptive to the feedback. Though what really requires is that there is still a large share of cargo which we are not able to convert, which actually starts moving middle mile on road, which is not efficient. I'm sure my colleague Amit here, if he has to start handle all those cargo which we are sending from this part of geography by road, then they would have a big problem at hand, right? Similarly, if he has to evacuate that scale on road, that would be a big problem. So overall, there is a large opportunity, to put it simply, Manish, and I would again repeat to say that cargo viability is not about the freight we can procure out of it. It's more about making the whole system more effective, reducing the waste and simplifying things so that we can make more out of the same investment.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. So let me move on now to the third key stakeholder. And ma'am, I'm going to come to you in the end because you represent finally the person that we are all serving, right? So let me move to Tarun, right? Two issues. One, and I already touched upon the Bharat shipping line thing with CONCOR briefly. To the lines, see the sort of see the decision of the government to create an alternative, and that's actually been the stated vision of creating Bharat Shipping Line, to create an alternative capacity to be able to look at, as I would put it, look at, not domestic, but look at Indian interests with more focus. Do the shipping lines, many of whom are not technically Indian companies, though they are operated and they have been working in India for many years and are probably as Indian as anybody else in the room. But do the shipping lines see this as a possible threat? And I'm asking this question in the context of a trend that we have seen, that of late shipping lines are extending their service portfolios into the hinterland. The shipping lines are looking at integrating backward into the hinterland by providing cargo to the last mile, not just till the port, but till the customer's doorstep, right? So do you see that the opportunity which has caused you to move into the hinterland is threatened by the emergence of a Bharat shipping line?
Thank you, Manishi, for a very interesting question. And before that, of course, I would like to extend my greetings to the entire house here. And pleased to be sharing the dais with such celebrated professionals and the veterans of the industry here as well. The answer is no. I do not see any threat here. Shipping industry, the global serving shipping industry is served by only a handful of operators so far. I mean, if I can count the ones which are truly in the true sense operating globally, would not be more than 25. That's my rough guess, don't take me by the numbers. And the ones which qualify to be called as global is probably they are operating in multiple continents and multiple seas, and which can be contrasted from those which are operating only regionally, maybe towards the west or the east, Arabian Sea or the Bay of Bengal, or a little beyond that. So a global line has ample space which they are not able to cover, or the mix of the pool of all the global lines which are operating from here are not able to deliver the cargoes with the utmost efficiency to all the possible destinations from where the trade has to operate, the Indian trade has to operate, the Indian EXIM trade has to operate. My internal statistics of MSC in particular tells me that we are operating out of 300 ports approximately, but operating between 1100 port pairs. And since we are not covering so many destinations, I presume that this figure could only be about 1/5 of the total combination of port pairs which could be operated upon. So we are able to serve in the sense, but with 2 or 3 transshipments, but we are not the efficient. Let's say, not we, but let's say a particular shipping company may not be as efficient for providing its sea transport services to anywhere in the world. We may claim that we are a global shipping line, but that's more of a relative term, that we are present almost everywhere. But then in true sense, we have to rate ourselves basis the efficiency and the standards which are desired by the trade end users. And which, of course, my colleague, peer sitting next to me, Ms. Rinku Gupta, and sooner or later will bear me out, that this is what they expect from a shipping company. So there is a lot of room to play around, and more shipping companies coming into this fray would mean that, yes, the end user would have ample choice, and the so-called, if at all, oligopoly or monopoly, it has not existed so far. But even if, let's say, for the sake of argument, even if, let's say, there is some bit of surplus capacity, because this is a very seasonal business. Sometimes but the trade itself is seasonal, so obviously there's nothing we can do about it. And like Mohitji just now mentioned, that it's probably the principle of limited elasticity. We are the highly inelastic kind of business activity. You give us floods of business, we cannot expand our capacity overnight. Our lead time to enhance capacity, to bring in ships, to bring extra capacity or to create extra capacity would go up to anywhere about 2 to 3 years. And probably we are we have a little bit of, some bit of apprehension that, okay, I am now investing in expanding my capacity, but what would happen after 3 years? Will the business still be there? The flux or the buoyancy of the business would still be there? I'm not very sure. So it's a highly risky business to invest in. At the same time, when there is dip in the cargo flows, we have to go under load. There is no way we can fill up the space even with the reduction in our prices. So to give a clear answer to your question, there is room to play for the Indian shipping company, which traditionally there have been Indian companies. For what reason they did not operate efficiently or they chose to curtail their capacities in the trade is better known to the government and the government way of working. So with better management, efficient management, there would be scope for everybody to increase the pie. And even we would be open to forming consortiums. Consortiums generally are sometimes, denote a negative image of cartels. But so far we had examples, and we've been able, just for the sake of clarity on this particular sticky point, I would like to mention that from 2013 onwards, Government of India has given exemption, and they successively continue to renew those exemptions on consortiums as not being violative of the competition laws. And again, every time we have to go back, unfortunately, every time we have to plead before the government that, look, here is the example, these consortiums are running successfully, they are complementing each other, they are supporting the trade. If I don't have I operate a certain route with about 7 or 8 halts, I may not have cargo for 1 or 2 ports. Let the other partner of mine bring in that cargo. So we kind of optimize on the space utilization. And thereby, of course, we bring down the cost. So the competition here is, on the other hand, is kind of healthy for serving the export and import trade. So more the merrier is the ultimate mantra that I would like to place before you.
Thank you, Tarun. So, I mean, certainly what I'm hearing, and before I come to you, ma'am, what I'm hearing so far is that as far as the whole capacity issue is concerned, in this business, you have step supply, you have straight line demand. The gaps both create opportunities. They create risks in terms of idling capacities at times and shortages at times, which the trade sometimes have to bear with in terms of fluctuations in availability of supply, in how pricing happens, etc. So I think that's a structural nature of the business. What I'm also hearing is that as far as capacity is concerned, there is a general confidence that there is cargo in available, and that as long as we are able to run businesses efficiently, we should be able to meet the existing capacity, the growing capacity, and invite additional capacity, let's say in the case of a new shipping line. Ma'am, I want to come to the last question on this round to you. And I'm giving you an advance notice, so I have 2 questions for you. The first question is going to be about your experience, and the second question is going to be about your expectations. The second question I want to come to at the end of the discussion, so maybe at the end of the second round, right? But at this round, after having heard some of the key stakeholders who are providing different parts of the service that a customer experiences, what has been your experience as far as multimodal logistics transport as a solution to your logistics need? In the last few years, do you see some changes? Do you see some trends? And do you have any any takeaways where we can then talk about how they could be addressed in policy or what is being done in terms of policy? And then we'll come to your expectations at the end, right? So in terms of your experiences on how this experience of dealing with multimodal transport as a service provision for you across different types of services.
So thanks, Manish. On a lighter side, I would like to start saying that we say ladies first, we say customer first. I'm the last question. So I think this was a deliberate play being done. First to hear from CONCOR, CFS, and rails, and then container shipping line. So I understand the flow. I'll tell about my experience, but before I start with the experience, important is to understand the customer. Okay. How the business is getting driven. First of all, we have through our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, there are various ways of increasing the business for India which is being driven. Now, we have the FTAs now coming across, we have the Europe we have heard upon. So these are the ways how business can be increased within India. Make in India, we hear about battery technology coming to India, we hear about semiconductor industry coming to India. So these are the ways how our government is trying to increase the business for India. Definitely, in long term, if I say, it also means that import content may decrease, okay? And giving a path for export to increase by such strategies. So, me being into a company, so with these strategies, we are also benefited for sure. We are increasing business as CNH for exports for the world. Okay, and experience point of view, the question you asked, in last few years we have been, dealing with all the stakeholders in this multimodal logistics, I'll say. So dealing with them, one improvement, maybe little, I'll say the digitalization little bit has improved. Where the track and trace system is there to say where our shipment is. So it does not take time to get back to know where my container is, where the vessel is, or on the way, whether it is at the port or whether it is on the way on the rail. Okay, so there is improvement experience point of view. If we say there is improvement through the government initiatives and thereby the intermodal connections, the road connectivity or the rail connectivity that has improved for the dry port like Mundra, causing us that the transit time which used to be around, I think, 55 hours, that has reduced to 36 hours. Definitely there is improvement in terms of these lead time, in terms of little bit transparency. But if I say, does this quench my expectation? Then I will say no, not at all. It does not. Recent example that we are ongoing through is the Middle East war. Okay. Now, if I ask about my shipment, where my shipment is, when I can get my shipment and all, within days, I mean to say, I think within hours I should have got feedback and all. But before I get the answer where my shipment is or when I will get my shipment, the first feedback I got is that this much €1,000 per container increase as surcharge is there. So I don't know how does it happen so fast, the calculation finance people are making, that how much surcharge to be charged to the customer rather than customer to be satisfied for their delivery aspect. In logistics industry, important for the customer point of view is two things, cost and delivery. So if this is the way delivery is taken care of, then I come on to the cost aspect. Okay, rail services that has improved and logistic cost has reduced, but logistics cost has reduced, I have a big doubt, because the cost is maybe increased for us, be it that the transit time has decreased. If we say that 55 hours has reduced to 36 hours, but if I say for my export or import that work in days and months, does this hours satisfy my requirement? The direct hit for me is cost. The cost has not decreased. If I say with the support of Mr. Nitin Gadkari ji, the road infrastructure has improved. The fastest delivery is happening. But if I compare rail with road, nowadays my road transportation is cheaper than rail transportation. It should not. Secondly, if it is there, okay. I don't think so that when my means transportation or sea travel happens for 2 months for US, will one day impact me or support me by having these corridors. No, because my logistics cost is there itself. And the second point is flexibility. So I will not comment over the flexibility in terms of means maybe sea transportation, but maybe if for domestic transportation, do I have the flexibility to use half rail? No. I will be asked that NMG rake will be given 150 only. So where is the customer being looked upon, because it is not as Mr. Jain said that financial composition also being looked upon. Yes, it is a pain for rail at present because every business has to happen considering the business aspect, whether it is beneficial for them or not. But how is customer being catered to it? Now, there are many things happening upon after COVID. So 2020 onwards, world has understand the importance of logistics. Before that, no one understood it, okay? So logistics has been understood. The day one thing happens in the global, the next day question comes upon is logistics. Okay, we have GST implementation, new GST implementation from 22nd of September. The whole India stopped between 1st of September to 21st of September, and question came across again on the logistics. So thanks to COVID, I will say that logistics has been understood in detail, supply chain people have been understood in details. It is not only just delivering from one place to another place. It's about the customer, how supply chain is working for it day and night. So looking into that, important is how are we delinking the customer with which is what happening, the global disruption. Today we have Middle East war, I think tomorrow we have something else. How are we trying to delink such things for the customer? It's a VUCA world. VUCA world is being talked about word. But important is how the shipping line, how the community supports the customer to delink it at, and not talking about first as surcharge. It's definitely not happening. Second aspect is onto the communication, as we are speaking about AI and all, but how the transparency can be brought upon into the system by, I will say, even a bot. I think bot is used a lot, but how can we have transparency that if I want to know which rake or which part of my of the rake my container is lying, do we have accurate transparency about it? Information is given, but how accurate it is, it's a thought to be pondered upon. So when we say about transparency, end-to-end connectivity, we say, yes, road transportation is there, good, improved, rail transportation is improved, we have the information on the vessel where it is. But I think still, how much time will it take to, from the transshipment port to load for the second vessel? That is still not there. So how do we improve this communication is important. As customer, maybe this is still lagging. We only say, yeah, this is shipping line, and we will get back to you as when we get the information from the shipping line. So maybe it is lying at Jebanalli port, but okay, now we are at a different phase of Jebanalli port. But if I say if it has Singapore port, so when it will be getting next to commit to Nhava Sheva, that is definitely remaining. And very importantly, it comes across with the surcharge information when such an event happens. But when we increase the volume, do we get volume discount? I think CONCOR has such facilities of volume discount and all, but is it being passed upon to the customer? No, I don't know where this cost goes to. So, sorry, I mixed experience and expectations together, because when experience comes into picture, expectations definitely has to come across, and there are, I think, several questions being posed upon which are still answered, to be answered now.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Let me now, on the basis of this first round, let me, summing up, it's very clear, as we heard from the customer perspective, that there is an expectation with regard to cost. All of us as service providers and all of us as people who stitch the ecosystem together need to constantly keep this in mind. I think what Adhendru said very importantly is that cost need not simply be about a reduction in price for each service provided, but about increasing the efficiency of the system, so that if the cost goes down, the price will hopefully follow. We talked about information, and I think that's something maybe that is probably the lowest hanging fruit for us to address, because the ability to integrate information today from a technology perspective is much better than it used to be even a few years back. And I think while many individual service providers, and I think this is one thing I picked up, ma'am, that she's getting inputs from the port or from the rail operator or from the road transporter or from the shipping line, but are we able to provide information to our customers seamlessly across the transit chain? Just to share, just earlier today I was having a conversation with somebody in the Ministry of Railways, and I said that, the problem is that the Railways looks at transit as wheel start to wheel stop, whereas the customer looks at transit as cargo handover to cargo receipt. And the time in the beginning and the end, which is lost, is something that nobody is really willing to take responsibility for. So I think, in terms of information, in terms of solutions, I seem to have lost the mic, but I'm sure I can be heard. Thank you. So I think in terms of solutions, that could be maybe one of the first or the easier area to address, because it doesn't come with inter-stakeholder issues or inter-stakeholder interactions and all of that. Having said that, let me move to the second part or the second round of our discussion, and I had actually hoped that there would be a colleague of mine from the Railways who would be able to share some of this issues related to policy. And I never thought I would be saying this, but let me therefore step in and take this opportunity to at least share with you as to what is the current thought process as far as policy direction is concerned. Caveat, I am reporting to you what I have heard in conversations. I am reporting to you what I have been privy to in discussions. I represent rail operators. I myself am an ex-railway person, so I have a lot of meetings with both logistics department and railways, and we have been trying to develop a policy or a reform agenda more than something which is a micro agenda. So I'm trying to, I will share some of that with you. Obviously, since this is not from the horse's mouth, none of this can, the railways cannot be held, their feet can't be held to the fire for this. But let me share some of the thoughts that are emerging. So broadly, on the basis of the instructions that have come from the Ministry of Railways and from the Prime Minister's office on logistics and on improving supply chains, some of the reforms that we are likely to see in the sector, timeframes again are a little uncertain as far as that is concerned. I'm sure even a railway person here couldn't have given you the timeframes, but what we are likely to see. One, we are looking at pricing reform, and the government is not looking at pricing reform as a means to reduce the price, but as a means to rationalize the price. So there are, if you look at how pricing of government-related services, whether it is services in some cases at major ports, or whether it is very predominantly railway haulage, which is a cost in our supply chain, some of those services have imbalances, have disruptions. So a classic example, for example, is if you look at the railway pricing curve, it favors heavy cargo, it works against light cargo. As a result, there is a tendency to lose light cargo to road. Heavy cargo tends to remain on rail, but that also then causes to the disruption in imbalance because our exports are lightweight, our imports are heavy. So that creates a further problem. So one of the thought processes is to have a more balanced pricing mechanism, which is going to look at being able to attract certain cargo, which as a sector we are not able to bring on board. So there is this whole talk about pricing reform. I don't think we should sit with expectations of a price reduction, but certainly a rationalization which will help us. And as we talked about, when we talked about the sub-step function of capacity and the straight line of demand, those gaps get filled if you are able to price things right. So that's one thing which is on the cards that I'm hearing about. The second thing that we are also hearing about, and I think this is something which we have seen already in, for example, the North India to Mundra corridor, which is a busy trade corridor as far as containers is concerned, is the concept of transit reliability. Now, a very tricky word, huh? Is it timetabled? Is it transit guarantee? So nobody is talking. In my opinion, I don't think that the trade is looking for timetable trains. I think the trade is on this, not just with CONCOR, but even with private operators, where a transit reliable service between North India to Mundra is being talked about. As part of the reform process, the railways is for the first time beginning to accept that their product cannot simply be that I will get cargo from A to B. It has to be I will get cargo from A to B in a certain period of time. So some kind of transit commitments are likely to come as part of the reform process. A third thing which we are seeing as likely to happen is in the era of, is in the space of terminals. As CONCOR already mentioned, they are looking at expanding terminals. The railways has, and the government of India through Department of Logistics has put a lot of pressure and put a lot of initiative on development of terminals. The Department of Logistics and the Ministry of Road Transport are working on MMLPs. The railways is working on GCTs, Gati Shakti cargo terminals, and ECRTs, exclusive container rail terminals. The idea being that if you are able to create a network of locations which can attract cargo, the windows to the network increases. It's also important that these locations, to the extent that they are being promoted, at least with land coming from the government, will function as, and this is very critical, will function as common user facilities. So the whole idea of one guy sitting on a piece of land and saying, "Ye mera terminal and nobody else can come and access it," is likely to change, where any terminal built on government land will work on a common user principle. Obviously, there will be pricing and there will be competition, etc., but the idea should be that the capacity utilization of land-based assets cannot be made exclusive, because then they become inefficient. I mean, we've got terminal operators at the port, we've got terminal operators on the rail. I'm sure you will understand that a terminal functions best with volume. And therefore, if you are able to expand that volume base, especially where your land is coming from a public source, this is something that we're likely to see. And finally, and though this might not have a direct impact, it might address one of the issues which you raised, ma'am, with regard to cost. For the first time, we are looking at the railways considering allowing rail operators as asset owners to maintain their own assets. So currently the system was, while we were allowed to own wagons and run trains, the maintenance of these wagons and these trains was being done by the railways. So we had no control over quality, we had no control over time. Suddenly we would find that a service that we have planned and committed to a customer has to be disrupted because wagons have been damaged and cannot be replaced on short notice. Also, hopefully, as we get control of maintenance ourselves, we will move to more scientific maintenance practices like predictive maintenance, like being able to offer a certain guaranteed amount of uptime on the assets. These kind of words don't work well with the government. So these are some of the policy issues that have been talked about. I will not say that these have been decided, but they are all in different processes of discussion. There is an in principle understanding that these things are going to come sooner rather than later. So I just wanted to share that with you. Like I said, This should have been a question I raised to my colleague in the railways. He's not here. So I'm stepping in to at least keep the trade informed as to what is going on this front. And I'm sharing this also in my capacity as a person who represents container train operators, because I think it's important in the interest of transparency for trade to know what we are doing, what we are facing, what policies are going to impact us, because that will determine how we can offer, or how the trade can offer, better services. Having said that, let me now come to the last round of discussion, where we move away from the reality of the current situation, which is existing capacity, likely policy, the experience of the trade, and do a little bit of what I call crystal ball gazing. What do we need to do? What can we do? What are the new products that we can develop to be able to increase the size of the pie? I fundamentally believe that growth in containers has this is a phrase that people love, right? Double engine sarkar. So growth in containers has two drivers. There is an organic growth, the industry is growing, cargo is growing, 5%, 6% GDP, blah, blah, blah. But our containerization in this country is also limited. We are still nowhere near the degree of containerization that exists in the rest of the world. So a second engine or a second driver for container growth is increased containerization, right? That would require new products and new means to bring that cargo onto rail and onto containers. I always say rail because I think rail, but it could also be road, but to bring it to containers so that the overall growth becomes larger, so that the size of the pie increases, right? Let me begin on this question. Again, I'll come back to the port first. So Amit, what in your view are some of these new innovations or products that could help the ecosystem as a whole attract more volumes, more containerized volumes, and bring them onto the ports and bring them into the ecosystem?
That's a good question. See, the supply chains that we have in India are fairly stiff resistant. This is how it works. It's not going to change. You can do whatever you like. When I go out and I meet some of the VCOs, when I go out and meet some of CTOs, and sometimes the operations heads of lines, comes down to a cost. All right, and that's a fair point. But the bigger picture is, which is where we come back and said, what is the value that you're looking at? Everything comes, if it goes down to a cost, it's only a question of time if everyone runs aground. I think one of the things which I've seen which is generally missing is we simply do not simply understand or engage enough to actually problem solve. What is the problem you're addressing? It's not cost. It may be cost, one problem, but it could be reliability, right? It could be availability. It could be a surety. When you sit down and then work your product around identified elements of problem solving, you break down the problem into 3 or 4 reasons what is the problem. You will realize that invariably you will get attention from potentially those who are just there to negotiate a freight or a price, right? We, for example, at Pipavav, do a lot of import block trains. Export block train, everyone does, it's easy. Import block trains is not easy, because it starts from when the ship sails. You need to know when the container is coming, when it's coming, how it's coming, where it's coming. That interface has problem solving, has Kaizen techniques, has lean techniques, has then SOPs around it. And it's been now 5-7 years, we've gone from 1 train to 6 a month, or 6 a week. 6 a week. Now that just shows scale. It comes up because you're attaching SLAs, you're attaching quantified value. So I think one of the things when you look at products is you look at figuring out what is it you're trying to solve, which is a good situation to be in, because you're actually addressing industrial needs. If you do not address industrial needs, to what ma'am said, you'll eventually means the next disruption comes in, this goes outside the window. Or the next someone comes in the $10 rate reduction, it goes outside the window. Because then you're measured in rupees and cents. You're not measured in time, you're not measured in values, you're not measured in supply chain reliability. So those are the products that we can link. But for products to link, there are a couple of things, and I'll touch on a very important point here also with Manish, with your permission. We should have the kind of quality of manpower who can also think like that. I think that's a very important part. We have not really attracted that many manpower, that much talent, who can take a very scientific approach to solving supply chain challenges. Now it's beginning to come in. Adani has a MBA institute and a supply chain and all, but it's going to take time before it starts coming up. And I think we should be ready to sit down with that approach. What are we trying to do? I think that's one thing. Where ports come into the picture, it's just an intermediary between an end user, which could be a shipper or a consignee, depending import or export, potentially a CTO. It could also be with a rail, it could also be a trucking organization, because sometimes you do get, like for example, if you're now share and you're getting grapes, it comes in trucks. I mean, that's just the method of managing it. And the shipping line. We can help grow this. But we need all these elements to come together. Otherwise, all we will do is look and say, this is what it's done, this is what's come at a cost, and then not be held accountable for deliverable, because then you'll be facing cost, you'll be facing, where is my container out here? When you address problem solving that addresses identified needs, that address waste, that address transparency, that address service deliverables, you eventually come with a lot more sustainable product. Now that, once that sustainable product is scaled up, you then enter into discussions like decarb. You then enter discussions like environmental pluses. You then into discussions like stickiness, which otherwise most of us don't discuss with. So that would be my point on the product. I'll give a very simple example, like to the point of capacity. One thing which I forgot to mention is, people actually ignore that there's a very healthy coastal, there could be more, but there's a coastal trade that also terminals will cater to. Not known to many, people only think, oh yeah, this is the cargo, it comes from here, it goes by truck, comes from Kandla, goes by truck, comes from other. What you don't know is that coastal business has started going in ports on rail. That's a reality. So what's the product here? Why did it come about? Why was the need there? Somebody obviously brainstormed. Somebody obviously thought that is right. Somebody approached it from a shipper perspective. Somebody sat with the port and said, can this be done? And now it's been done sustainably. So I think that approach of problem solving in a very scientific way, that approach of breaking the challenge down rather than just living with the challenge day in, day out, that approach of a co-creation of a product, if I could call it, where the customer, be it importer or exporter, the shipping line, it can also be a non-container shipping line, a RoRo, for example, sits down and puts together something that addresses a real need that overall either reduces, compresses, or just streamlines the end-to-end. That is when products start working.
Thank you. So problem solving, right? Okay. Let me move next to, keeping the sequence the same, let me move next to Adhendru. So as far as rail is concerned, right? Fundamentally, rail is a terminal-to-terminal solution. It's not a terminal-to-terminal product, it's a terminal-to-terminal solution, because that is where your track exists, right? But the demand of the customer is obviously not terminal-to-terminal. We have seen a lot of terminal-to-terminal offerings by rail in the form of what I call chassis stuffing from one point to the other, which is just like converting a container into a wagon and doing the movement. On the container space, and because I'm trying to talk about increasing the size of the container pie, what is it that rail operators are thinking about? What can be done? What is it that you're looking from partners, stakeholders, to be able to widen this base and get more cargo to get containerized?
Thanks, Manish. So to start with, I think you had started with a very fair comment that, rail is part of the solution. And I would say that we as CTOs, I think it would be more simpler to put that we also provide rail services. You know, while that's the core of the business, if you really look at steel. Yeah, we also make steel, right? So we also provide container transport services. But if you really see it from a customer perspective, and she gave some very good insights, most of the things which customer experiences are a lot more to do with the activities which as a solution provider we need to come in. I think as CTOs, the mindset what we carry is that it's just not about a part of the solution, but we have to see it from a customer perspective, whether it is to do with the ease of doing business, whether it is to do with the creating solutions. How do we really make life easy and simple for them, as good as a truck operator putting up a vehicle at their warehouse? So most times if you look at it, Manish, a lot of things which have happened. I will take a very, one of the big commodities which moves out of North India. I think as CTOs, if you really look at it, transportation by containers is just one part of it. But it starts from the time the customer has to pick up a container and you have to make the container ready according to need of the customers. You start working with the repair vendors. You start planning it from a time that when does the customer needs it. So at the warehouse, you are putting up the first mile. Then you are planning it out to see that how do you really work with the stakeholders both at the port and the shipping line to ensure that we are able to connect container on the designated vessel. So thing is that from a customer perspective, I think as CTOs and as solution provider, the mindset which we are driving home is that we have to take charge of things with a single window solution to customer, so that when they are interfacing with us at our PFTs, ICDs or multimodal logistics park, all their needs are being taken care of. So this is something I would say is more hygiene, but I think beyond that, and when you look at the crystal ball, what we need to do further is, I would say that we need to also look at it that as we are progressing from a country which is being specialized or more dependent on the agri commodities or some basic commodities to evolving, the key moot point would also be that the need of each cargo is different. And I think that's where one of the points which was also the subject of the whole discussion comes into play is the corridor or the segment or the commodity specific solutions. And there it would not only be about problem solving by a CTO, but I think as all stakeholders, we would have to work together that what could be a need of auto company may be very different from a rice customer, might be very different from a tile customer, and it is very much possible that we may have to work towards solutions which may be bespoke to that industry and could be scaled to a place where we could actually make it as a industry product corridor specific solutions, so that needs of that cargo could be taken care of, and it could vary whether it is in terms of the cost or in terms of the value or in terms of other things what that particular commodity segment or corridor may need. And I think Amit touched upon something very similar, right, on the block trains. Now block trains on imports could be very, very interesting for an auto customer, but maybe not that relevant for a waste paper customer. And I think that's where we have to evolve, and it is not about seeing and offering that solution only to the commodities what we are carrying, but if we really look at it, there is a large portion of commodities which continue to move on alternative mode of transportation. I think as stakeholders, we have been seeing it happening for many, many years to go. Even today, there is a big portion of retail and lifestyle containers which tend to take the road route just because they have this fear that I have like a very small window to connect. But she mentioned it, right, that 36 hours, now what faster you need. So, the thing is that I think we have to just make sure that there are those things which we are able to design, put it as a product, and when I say product, that should take care of the complete end-to-end need of the customer, that when they have handed over the container, they could have a sound sleep and ensure that my box would be connected tomorrow. I think there are a lot we need to work together.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks. So again, Amit talked about problem solving. Adhendru talked about creating an end-to-end understanding the need of the cargo to create a solution. I keep hearing the word solution again and again. Tarun, when I come to you, I'm going to change focus again. I have a tendency to, like I said, occasionally get derailed, so let me try to not get entirely derailed. So, one of the tendencies that we have been noticing is that while traditionally shipping lines have been moving cargo into the hinterland as the customers of the cargo through the line haul model for a long time, we are now seeing that model emerge on the export side as well, right? We are seeing lines looking to provide the end-to-end solution on the export front. The issue I want to raise is, when you're providing an export service as an end-to-end solution provider, you are using somebody else's terminal, you are using somebody else's train, you are going to somebody else's port, right? What is the value add that a line provides, other than the obvious value add of price, towards this product? And how does this benefit the customer?
Thank you, and I was feeling ignored until now. Well, yes, this concept has been restored now. It was when the containerization started in the hinterlands of North India particularly. This was very much in practice, and then somewhere it got diluted along the way. Different practices emerged because of some bit of, tariffs, implications of incidences of the GST, which provided for reliefs on cargo being booked on the rail by the exporters themselves, and against, in contrast to what the logistic service provider could not offer. But those have now gone away, done away with under the new GST law. So now again, we as shipping lines, of course I cannot comment on behalf of every shipping company here, but most of the shipping lines prefer to accept the cargo on a liner haul or pre-carriage basis. The reason is simple again, it's the phenomena of offering a single window service. Rather than leaving the exporter to deal with the local transporter, to do the first mile, to deal with the ICD operator, to deal with the rail operator, to deal with the port, and maybe sometimes, if you look at things, the way things were happening conventionally, to deal with the stevedores also. So look at the hassles what the customer has to face, and in turn we bundle up everything together and offer this as a one single composite product and a service with a composite price to the customer, makes life much simpler. Otherwise, there have been times in the past, of course in our time, that's when we got into shipping at this side, there were at least half a dozen of the separate tariff heads which were being charged by the ICDs itself, offloading from the shipper's truck, shifting the cargo from shipper's truck to the carting in the warehouse, loading it onto the rail wagon, then dispatch. So this is just simplification of the procedures which is being provided by the shipping companies, and above all that, we provide the beyond this some single window service as a sake of convenience. It is we undertake the entire risk of accepting the cargo here. Otherwise, you have all the freedom of wherever you produce cargo, up country or midway somewhere, you can hand over your cargo to the port directly if at all you find that as a convenient mode, a cheaper mode or an efficient mode. It's all up to the exporter. We do not force anybody to hand over the cargo here, but if at all you wish to give us the cargo here, then we would obviously, you can take the bill of lading right here itself, and that is like, your headache is over. You've handed over the cargo in a sealed condition, and now it is up to the shipping company, the carrier, to deliver it up to the place of delivery, whatever you may have consigned it to. So it's just a simplification and option available for the trade, with no big profit motive out here. Of course, sorry.
I will take your word for this. I will take your word for this. Okay, but from this, let me take your answer and go to the customer, right? You've heard what people have talked about in terms of problem solving, in terms of finding solutions for the customer, in terms of making things simple. As a customer, and especially as a customer who is also involved in the export of goods, right? What has been, your experience, and I'm coming back to the experience question, though I promised I wouldn't, but what has been your experience? Are you seeing these kind of efforts or these kind of solutions coming forth? Are they helping you? That's one question. And there's a second question. What I'm sensing, what I'm hearing from some of the other people on the panel is that sometimes if you are able to get a more efficient means of transport, if you are able to get a more efficient means of supply chain management, the inherent cost savings there maybe will offset, within quotes, a higher price. Is that the way the customer is thinking?
Come again, the
So,
last point.
like I said, so when somebody says that we are providing single window, or when somebody says we are providing a solution, there is a cost to it, right? Now, it's possible that single window is causing you less grief, it's making things easier for you, maybe it's even reducing your inventory time or transit time, but it's leading to an increase in cost. So, as a customer, are you thinking that if I get a less headachy solution, or a more well-packaged end-to-end product, I'm willing to pay a little bit more for it? Or do you expect that product to be part of your baseline?
Okay. So 2 questions you asked. One about the export and how the different things like solution or I'll say about the single window and all. So yes, over a period of time, again, this experience is there. So irrespective of, there are many, stakeholders into the line, and obviously everyone wants to have their life easy. So the single window, which takes care, the risk takes care to the end to end, it helps us. And definitely that comes not with a marginal cost, but yeah, it comes with a cost, and customer is paying to it. Okay. So first important is right now, as a customer, we look for service. And it comes with a cost, so we do honor that. Maybe if I say, because I have experience in both the areas, both domestic and international, but we kill the domestic guy irrespective of all the things happening in the supply chain. So for that person, we know there are many people into the ground, and the same price may continue for road transportation if I need to deliver anything from Noida to Pune and all. So I will be having 3 years, same rate and all. So I kill the domestic guy because I know the fat man does not have flexibility, and I have to pay there. So I pay there. However, I see that things are improving in the export area. But still, dil mange more, and that will happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. So, as I see, we have about 13 minutes. What a good number, because I think the session is supposed to go until 5:10. We've heard our panelists talk about existing situations. We've heard our panelists talk about I can be heard in any case. So we've heard our panelists talk about existing situations, capacity. We've heard talk about what are new products or what are new thought processes in service provision. And I'm glad that we have a representative from the customers on the panel who can keep everybody honest and who can call a spade on any of the issues that we are talking about, because that's important. Otherwise, we tend to work in echo chambers. We talk to each other and get very happy that we are doing great things. This is the person that we are all serving, and we need to keep that in mind 100% of the time. When we started, I did mention that there is an elephant in the room. There is an elephant in the country, actually, which is what is going on currently in terms of massive disruptions as far as trade is concerned. I'm not going to ask our panelists to talk about what is happening. We had talked about maybe we'd spend some time on it. What we'll do is now we'll open up the house for some questions. If people in the process of their questions want to raise any issues or want any clarifications, we've got somebody from the CTO sector, we've got a shipping line representative, we've got a port representative, we've got me who represents nobody but can take a dig at a few things. We'll be happy to try and address those questions. Try to keep your questions or your observations as questions. Let us know who you want to ask the question to, and let's try to have a discussion for the next 10 odd minutes, or if you guys are really hungry for coffee, we'll end earlier, but house is open for questions now. Nobody has a question. Oh, Paroma, of course, please.
Sir, you can walk up to the mics placed around. There are mics placed around. You can walk up to one of the nearest
Yeah,
ones.
Paroma.
Already done. This question is for Dr. Rinku ma'am.
You're visible. You're visible and audible, no problems.
Okay, so the question I have is that we talk a lot about green solutions and, you know, there is a lot sustainability. We have pressure from customers who require vendors to go green. So my question to you as a customer is, while we would make all efforts, there is a certain cost associated with increased sustainability or green solutions. Are customers willing to pay some part or at least share this cost of taking a greener route than we do today? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. So I am a big fan of sustainability, and for sure there is definitely a cost in today's scenario. So if that cost is, example that today my overall cost in any route or anything is X, and if the solution of sustainability comes with 10X, for sure sustainability will be put like a marketing gag, which is today and will happen for tomorrow also. But we need to match up on, because cost is also an important parameter. If it is like 1.5 or 2X, for sure I will look upon. Today, if I tell you an example, not related to shipping industry or container, but same for the exports. We use packaging which is wood packaging, and we have immense pressure in the world to go for a sustainable solution. So I didn't ask for any cost reduction to the existing vendor, and then I said, okay, I am happy to have the wood go away and have maybe corrugation, maybe returnable or something. So I'm doing that. Number two, I'm definitely interested since last 2-3 years in the company, 3 years in the company, I have continuously asked whether do we have a container being run by LNG or any other fuel, alternate fuel, ethanol fuel and all. So I would be interested to start with. If it is electric vehicle having so much payload, can take that payload, I am interested for. But yes, cost has to be put into picture, because to a certain extent we can pay for it, but if it is 10x, no. I think sustainability has to come with a cost comparison at how the business case can also be made. Maybe the ROI, rather if the ROI is 3 years, we can go for 5 years also, but some years.
Thank you. If I can add just 2 quick thoughts on the whole sustainability issue. So one, this is rail, right? Every time you put a box on rail, you are already doing a more sustainable transport solution. And the advantage or the beauty of rail is that because railway traction today is based on electrification, even if the electric traction is today moving on thermal coal, you are actually moving your goods on a mode of transport which is the best suited for automatic conversion to greener and greener forms as the country moves from thermal to renewable energy. So, you know, if the country moves to more hydro, to more solar, that gets fitted into the grid and it comes onto rail automatically. You don't have to change from a diesel truck to a LNG to an EV, none of that. The technology exists. The minute you're on rail, you're already going greener. So that's one great argument for going on rail. The second thing, and this is just as a share or as an input on the policy thing that we talked about, So the Indian Railways, for example, already has a scheme where they award, within quote, green points to people who move their cargo on rail. These green points at this point of time are just feel-good numbers. They don't really have a value. But there is a discussion which is ongoing on being able to use these green points as carbon credits. The minute they become carbon credits, what happens is that while you might be paying 1.2 or 1.3 times in terms of freight, the carbon credit is a tradable commodity and you actually get a feedback. So again, in terms of sustainability, it comes at a cost, certainly. But there are increasingly ways where even sustainable solutions can be met at the same cost. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm Devkinandan Todi from NF Forgings Private Limited. We started making containers when in 2020, Government of India decided to reinvent the container industry in India. So we made the first proto in 2021. Regarding this, there was talk of containerization of domestic cargo. So I am very proud to say that both the rakes of cement tank containers, which have been commissioned recently by Container Corporation of India, were made in my company's factory. So cement tank container is one success story of domestic containerization of domestic cargo. Second thing, ma'am just mentioned about there was talk of terminal to terminal, shifting from terminal to terminal to door. So roll on, roll off, in my humble opinion, roll on, roll off is one solution where players like DP World can change the scenario. The trucks can be loaded at the factory and then they can roll on the wagons, and then again from terminal they can roll off and come to the other end. Then this lady said about this thing. So NMG wagons, there was a question of NMG wagons. Ma'am, containers can be modified and they can be made especially for carrying of vehicles. We are doing this customization for transportation of two-wheelers. We are making cassettes where 6 or 5 two-wheelers are loaded on one cassette, and then that cassette is loaded on the container. So if the manufacturing industry and the service providers, if they come on the one platform, and if there is a reverse engineering according to the requirement, I think there is a lot of scope, and in India we have a lot of talent and people who are willing to invest money, and we are one such. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Devkiji. Is there a question or that's it?
Question is that my question is that why roll on, roll off is not being explored.
Okay, let me address that question. So fundamentally, when you look at roll on, roll off, you are looking at moving one motive power on top of another motive power, right? You're taking a truck which has an engine and putting it on a wagon which also has an engine at the end of the train. So there is a massive waste of capacity in terms of cost capacity, because the truck, you are paying for the engine. That's one. Secondly, in roll on, roll off, the amount of dead freight that gets involved, because you have to move a full truck and load it onto a wagon, tends to mean that in terms of your efficiency of loading, you're losing the efficiency of loading, because in a wagon where you're loading 20 tons, 5 tons is actually just the weight of the truck, right? That's the second problem. In the case of India, there is a third problem, which is that when you load a truck onto a wagon, invariably with our existing standard moving dimension, the truck tends to violate that moving dimension. It works on DFC, but it doesn't work in all routes. Fourth, nowhere in the world except for very specific routes where there are environmental challenges has RoRo been worked as a as a solution for bulk or large scale cargo movements. It's a temporary or a specific solution. I think, and I know, I do work with a company very closely which works on a similar solution, which is called a bimodal solution. Kirloskar has tried that in this earlier, and there is some more efforts at that, where you look at a RoRo kind of a solution, but you don't actually move the whole truck onto the wagon. You actually simply convert the chassis into a common chassis. So it's called RailRunner or Road Railer, where the chassis can be used for road and rail. Some of the disadvantages of dead freight, of having to move a truck, get taken away, and the cost efficiency comes back. So the problem of RoRo fundamentally is that it becomes cost efficient. You're carrying too much capital as well as freight cost or dead weight cost, and that's why it doesn't become viable. Any other questions?
Sir, can I just, with your permission?
Of course.
There was this one question which was raised by our esteemed end customer here sitting next to me about the tracking of the cargo. I would like to enlighten the house that live tracking is in existence for about 4 to 5 years now. There is a device called TrackSense which is like a contraption which can be fixed to the container, just about the size of some 2 small bottles here. And there is a nominal charge which is levied, say around $35 to $50, $60 or something like that, depending on the voyage and the destination for one voyage. So if you are willing to pay that extra cost, then you have the provision to have live tracking of the box. On the seas, it operates on the satellite network mode. On the land side, it operates on the GSM mode. And live tracking can be integrated with your ERP systems or with whatever monitoring systems that you have, and you can probably set in your SLAs, and if at all you wish to, you could trigger off red flags if at all there is a deviation from your set geopolitical geofencing routes or the timings, etc., whatever lead time that you wish to set. And plus, even it is in existence there are enhancement features for the refrigerated cold chain as well. So if there is a tampering with the door and tampering with the temperatures or etc., those all alerts are possible. So I think we should encourage using those devices. Electronic support is available, so technology must be utilized to its utmost for your own better management.
No, that's good to know, because like I was saying, when we look at tracking, and I think what ma'am mentioned was that the problem is a rail provider is providing one tracking, Railways is providing something else, port is giving something else, you are giving. So if you are actually able to integrate the tracking into the box, right? And right now you're talking about sticking something onto the box. Mr. Devkinandan, I think from a technology point of view, we need to look at containers that have got tracking built into them. You can put chips, you can put, why not have a container like a truck which can be tracked wherever it is? Because that's information for the customer. So, I think tracking has to be inbuilt into your solution. And I think what you're suggesting is certainly a great...
Yeah, so this is end-to-end available.
It's an end-to-end, right. On their wagons, yes.
So now in the light of this technology being available at a very nominal cost, RFID seems to be archaic now.
RFID has a reader.
Because reader will only be installed at certain mile steps, sorry.
But I certainly agree with you, Tarun, that tracking has to be at the box level, because the box is moving from ICD to doorstep to terminal to rail to port to ship, and if that is being tracked and we can integrate that into whatever ERP systems, the customer gets a full visibility. Any other questions? Okay, so
with the permission of the chair,
sure.
just to let you know, at a terminal level also, now it's not done really in India, but this is more followed in the States. But API demand is getting increasingly high. Now, as a terminal, you could imagine you'd be the last person to know when the container is coming, but it does come eventually. Now, when you link this to the container through an API, effectively we are to enter into supply chain planning almost at discharge level. This is being done very successfully by my own company, but it's right now limited to States and Europe, where they actually link this literally down to a PO level and then they're pushing it down. We did try and roll this up out here in India. but we didn't get really a warm response because end of the day it came down to, I can't get it done because, the more reasons why it could not be done than actually someone even looking and saying, let's try getting it done. So you had a solution which is being used by automotive and retail giants in the States, right? But we cannot use it here.
No, so I think
surprisingly, in 5 years' time, I'll guarantee you this product will be used here. Everybody thought All India Radio was good, and today everyone's on Spotify.
Exactly. So I think in terms of tracking, what we are seeing, and a lot of the trade talks about as something as simple as being able to forecast what is on the high seas, so we can make plans for end-to-end services, all that. I think, and I said, I think it's one of the low-hanging fruit. The technology exists. The ecosystem is the best in India for technology adoption, for technology development. And I think, these kind of solutions will reduce pain. They will come at low cost, they will reduce pain, so we need to be exploring this. Okay, so having said that, I can see now that we've overshot by a few minutes. So thank you very much to all the panelists for an interesting and a very informative discussion. Thank you for the audience for bearing and patiently listening to us. And with that, I conclude the session. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, all of you. That was indeed an interesting session. And thank you for your questions as well. I'm sure some of you are impatiently waiting for the tea coffee break. But before we break for that, let's please give a loud round of applause for our panelists, followed by, as a token of our love and gratitude for all of them being there and being present here, accepting our invitation, I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Sridhar, who is the Secretary for NISSA. Ladies and gentlemen, a loud round of applause for him to do the honors for our panelists. May I first request in that order, Mr. Tarun Kalra to kindly step forward and accept this memento on behalf of NISSA Business Forum 2026. Thank you so much, Mr. Tarun Kalra. Put your hands together to invite Dr. Rinku Gupta. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us and for sharing your inputs. May I now request Mr. Amit Bharadwaj to kindly step forward. Thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Adhendru Jain, thank you very much for your presence and your insights. And of course, put your hands together for Mr. Manish Puri, who led the discussion, set the context extremely well and navigated the conversation in a meaningful way. Thank you so much, Mr. Puri, for joining us. May I now request Mr. Shashi Nair also to join us on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, can I request all of you, this panel along with Sridhar ji and Shashi ji, both of them, for a quick photograph. A loud round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up the first panel discussion of NISSA Business Forum 2026. Thank you so much.